So this chimney right here was up on that roof. The snow and frost and freezing forced it off of there. It didn't land like this, it landed on its side. There was kind of a hole right here. We buried it up and then we stood it on its end, and I guess it'll just be a yard ornament right there. That's what they wanted with it. So we're gonna rebuild the chimney, make it kind of like the one we got there. Obviously the mortar ain't gonna match perfectly, but it's an old lava rock chimney, kind of broke up a little bit. This is how they did it. It's kind of smeared some concrete on the top of it. It's got a bit of moss growing on it. The river nearby, it kind of has lots of humidity. So we got our block up here, got the chimney going, put some rebar down in there. It had a big 2-foot, just a plastered flue tile, so where that soot is on there, you can see where the smoke was coming through. So we're making it a 12-inch chimney now, and we're gonna do rebar down in there like that. This is what it did to the crooked. The snow built up and just crushed their crooked. So we're gonna rebuild that. We got the flashing, looks to be okay around the perimeter. We'll probably tune it up a little bit. But we got our mortar, everything on the roof. And should be able to make it all party again. When the chimney fell over, it landed right there. I'm sure there was a bunch of snow on the roof when it did it, or it would have just caved in way harder than that. But dinged it up, and then it slid down and folded the edge of the metal over right here and dropped off the roof. So that chimney didn't have any rebar in it. It was just all mortar and rocks. They did a little bit of bricks in there. So none of it was rebarred in place. So this drops down in there about 30 inches approximately. So it should give it some good shear from the roof down into there. Make it tougher. Probably part of the trouble was their seal kind of broke right there, and I imagine water ran underneath there and caused a great big ice dam right here and pushed it till it broke off of there. What we did down in that hole is there was a little lip down in there, and we just straddled some number 5 rebar across it to hold the flue tile while we poured this concrete in there. And that's about a foot thick right now. I just don't dare put too much in there, it'll probably drop out the bottom. So we do that much and then let it cure, and then it should grab a hold of that good enough to continue building the chimney up. These are 12 by 12 flue tiles, about 3/4 of an inch thick. Using a type S quickcrete mortar, and we're using a high strength concrete mix by Sapcrete. It's supposed to be 4,000 psi. Got a few of the rocks set in place, so we filled that full of concrete clear up to the top of here. Now we're just setting these in, start stacking it up. Putting the concrete around these, it's actually concrete mix, it's not mortar. Just kind of hold them all together, tighten them in there so they don't go anywhere. Pull this crooked off of here. Got it a couple of feet high. Filling it up with concrete as we go. Keeping the rebar coming up. Just using mortar out in the front. Should hold together pretty nice. Got this board, piece of metal on the back. It'll mostly be covered up. There's a couple of scratches in it, but it's not that big of a deal. It'll mostly be covered, just only this little part right there will be showing. It's just to keep the moisture off of it. So we're just gonna bolt that to the back of the chimney and then frame the crooked out. It'll be about a foot bigger than the one that was there. Should shed the snow a little bit better. The ice usually forms about a foot thick, so we've got about 12 inches right here to shed. The snow should just slip right off and come out around it. So those ribs might kind of hold it on there a little bit, but it'll mostly shed around the chimney to not put too much pressure on it. But it has rebar and concrete. It goes down into the existing one about 2.5 feet down in there, so it'll be quite a bit tougher than the one that was there. We did the stone on that house about 2 years ago, and the concrete around it. We got it about 4 feet high. The concrete's starting to push a little bit too hard, so we got a couple of braces on there. Hold them in place for a minute while it kicks. Kind of hard to get anything done when it only lets you do about 18 inches at a time. Gathering the rocks off this hillside. These rocks have some moss growing on there. The homeowners are really liking it. We want the chimney to be the 2 foot, 10 foot rule, so it's 2 feet higher than anything within 10 feet of it. So we're going to make it just a little higher than the peak. The peak's not necessarily 10 feet, it's more like 15 feet away from it, but it'll still be better than having a smoke down the chimney. Filling it full of concrete, almost to the top. It's been pretty cold, so we've been covering it up with that blanket every night. Got a crook it started there. It's pretty much up to height. We got our 2 foot, 10 foot. So it's 2 feet higher than anything within 10 feet of it. So what happens sometimes is the wind will just come up over the top of the roof right there and create a downdraft and try to shove the smoke back down the chimney. So if you get it high enough, that draft will come in lower than the top of the flue when it creates its downdraft over the roof. That's the whole idea, to get it 2 feet higher than it so that the wind will miss shoving it back down the chimney and smoking out the house. Framing is crooked in and got the bulk of it done. Just gonna try to shed the snow and stuff around away from the back of it. Packed a little concrete in there so that when we cut the metal up against it tight, then it'll hold it solid. Put a little tar back there just in case if anything leaks, then it extra security. There is a piece of metal on the back of that board there to protect the wood from that concrete. Just heating that up and pushing it in there, sealing it real nice against the rock so it don't leak and cause problems. It's all finished up, kind of rustic, just like they wanted it, nice and rustic.